Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and today I'm going to show you how to make a bead out of some bead caps, some crystal clay, and some mica powder. It's super easy and you're going to love this technique because it's going to give you a lot of options on making your own beads, which is so much fun. So I have two examples here which are done and they're actually drying, and you can see they're actually created on a head pin, and I'm going to remove them from the head pin to dry, but I wanted to show you I've got one that I used white crystal clay with a silver mica powder, and again white crystal clay with an antique gold mica powder, and it changes the look ever so slightly but does give it a different look. So have fun playing with the various colors of mica powder and crystal clay out there for this project. So I'm going to remove these very carefully and just let them dry on their side. And the clay itself is not actually touching the paper here, because crystal clay does stick to everything. So it's just kind of resting on that bottom bead cap. I'm going to let those dry overnight, and in the meantime, I'm going to make a bead with you here on the video. So I'm going to use crystal clay. Like I mentioned before, I'm using white. You don't have to use whatever color you like. I'm going to pinch off equal amounts of part A and part B. And for me, I like to roll them into a little ball, an approximate ball, so that I can make sure I have equal parts, and that is how I measure it. So it looks like I have a little bit more of the hardener than the color. Just going to add a little bit more. And those are looking pretty equal to me. So I'm going to put my clay away. With a two-part epoxy clay, such as crystal clay, the curing process doesn't actually start until you blend part A and part B. So you have plenty of time right now to put away your clay. And if you know you're going to want to make multiple beads to go in the same project, you want them to be approximately the same size, go ahead and measure out equal little balls ahead of time. Just don't mix them together. So if you were doing 6 beads, measure out 6 balls of part A and 6 balls of part B. Don't combine them, and then just work on one bead at a time, combining 1 ball of A and 1 ball of B. And you can see I'm just kneading them in my fingers here, just really mixing it up. And my goal is to get rid of all the striations. Only takes a couple minutes. And it's sticky. You can see it's quite sticky. All right, it's all mixed up. So now I'm going to roll it into a ball, just like so. You'll want to wash your hands really good after doing this, or you'll want to wear some gloves. So I'm going to take a bead cap, flip it over, and place my ball right into the bead cap. Tap it down ever so slightly. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. And I'm going to take my other bead cap, line it up so it's directly opposite, and I'm just sandwiching that clay in between the 2 bead caps, forming a ball. I'm going to press ever so slightly, just so it grabs it. Now I'm going to take my head pin, and I'm going to insert it through one end of the bead cap, and I'm going to push it all the way through till it comes out the other end. And now what I'm going to do, because crystal clay does stick to everything, I'm going to spin it. And what I'm doing by spinning it is I'm actually widening that hole, so when I want to go ahead and use this as a bead, I can easily get my needle and thread through it, or my beading wire, or whatever I'm working with. So I'm going to take a clean finger, not a sticky one, and do remember you'll want to wash your hands after this. And I want to try to remove any fingerprints I have on that clay. I'm going to do that by ever so gently swiping the tip of my finger just on the clay. I'm just rubbing it, but I'm not stretching it, and I'm not pulling it, and I'm not pushing it. I'm just ever so lightly brushing it. And I'm going all the way around. You'll see my ball is rotating on my head pin. And I'm going to go a little faster. I just want to smooth it out. And it's a good thing that it's rotating. You want it to rotate. You want to widen that hole as much as you can. The great thing about crystal clay is it doesn't have to be fired in a kiln, it doesn't have to be baked in an oven, and it's not going to shrink on you. It's a air dry clay, so it's just going to cure overnight on its own. which means you can add things like these bead caps to it and not worry about having to put them in the oven or having to fire them. So once that is smoothed out, I now want to add my mica powder. I mean, it's a fine looking bead the way it is, but I want to jazz it up a little bit. So mica powder looks like this. It's a really loose, fine powder, almost like a mineral eyeshadow. And I have a soft brush. If you're doing this particular project, it's important that you have a really soft brush because you don't want it to streak your clay. And I'm just going to hold my bead over the little container, dip the tip of my paintbrush into the mica powder, tap it a little bit to get rid of the excess, and I'm just going to paint the mica powder onto the crystal clay. And I'm going to let the excess fall back down into the container. I'm going to just pick up some more. Keep painting it on. You want to get into all the cracks. You want it to rotate. And then go all the way around. Now, in terms of sealing the mica powder, you don't necessarily have to if you feel like your piece is not going to get a lot of wear. I would not get it wet without sealing it for sure. In terms of if you do want to seal it, I would use a clear matte sealant. It would probably be my first choice to try to keep some of this pearly luster. You could also do a gloss sealant. It will make it more shiny though, but both are fine looks. And when I say I prefer not to seal it so I keep the luster, which means it won't be exposed to a lot of wear. I don't mean I'm not going to wear it and I'm not going to enjoy it. I just mean I'm not going to take a shower with it, and it's going to be something like an earring or a necklace, but not a ring where you're going to wash your hands and it's going to get knocked around a lot. A little bit of the mica powder will come off initially if you don't seal it, but there will be a nice shiny residue still on it that gives it a really nice pearly look. And as I've been talking, I've just been working my way around, making sure I get into all the little nooks and crannies. And I feel like I have. So now as my final element here, I'm just going to go ahead and really try to brush off any extra. Okay, there we go. And we have a bead. And so what I want to do with this is I don't want to let it dry on the actual head pin because it might stick to it. So ever so carefully, I'm going to scoot it off. Ideally, it'll stand up on its own, and it does. And I'm going to let it cure just like that. If it rolls to its side, it's okay as long as the crystal clay itself is not touching the paper. But the mica powder actually creates a little bit of a barrier, so it's not quite as sticky anymore. So if it does roll over, you're probably still going to be okay, but ideally have it dry in the upright position. So that is how you make a bead using crystal clay, sparkle dust mica powder, and some bead caps.